Warning, you are about to encounter two wild and weird fantasy football lovers. Please do not feed them football parleys. Their spouses are begging you. Sit back, relax unless you're driving, and be prepared to win your leagues.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to your mom's favorite fantasy podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Clay, with my boy Christian. And today we kind of want to just do a little short episode for you guys. We want to talk about fantasy sleepers. So if you were with us on our last show, we got right into our Himothies for this season, guys who we really believe that, you know, if you're going to have these guys on your team, we're trying to set you up for success. We're trying to set you up with guys that are going to help you win your league. Today, what we want to kind of do is beyond guys that we obviously believe in 100%. We've seen the footage. We've seen the film. They look great. We want to talk to you guys about something that are called sleepers. Christian, go ahead and kind of describe a little bit more about like what a true sleeper is.
Yeah, a true sleeper for us, or at least the way I would define it, is a player that is going later in the rounds. Maybe they're a rookie, maybe they're a veteran, but they have opportunity to produce more than what their value's at, right? So you've probably had that person in your league before. Mooney a little bit last year, Darnell Mooney for the Falcons, right? You caught him dirt cheap, and for a little bit he was producing. Even somebody like Jaden Daniels last year, right? Going later in rounds because he's a rookie quarterback, ends up being an elite top 10 quarterback, maybe even top 5. I'd have to look at it. But so those are sleepers, just trying to gain that value later in the rounds when nobody else is willing to take that chance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, mentioning Daniels, you actually were the one to pick him up and get him, I think, in the 10th round in our in our redraft league. So that was incredible.
Right.
And so yeah, we're just gonna try to help you out with guys. Obviously, mentioning Christian's history, we do have some success. So we do just kind of want to mention some names for you guys, give you a brief description, nothing as in depth as our Himothies from the other night. But we'll go ahead and dive right into it. I'll start first with my wide receivers, just kind of talk a little bit about them, and then Christian will talk about his wide receivers. So for me, I'm looking at guys, Zay Flowers here for the Baltimore Ravens. Right now, his ADP is 57 overall in redraft leagues. So for me, that's just too low. For someone who is absolutely the wide receiver one in this Lamar Jackson offense, he definitely gets his looks, and Zay Flowers is more capable than to have explosion games where he goes above 100 yards, more than 5-6 receptions a game. And for me, 57 is just too low for Zay Flowers. I mean, on that team, his only competition receiving wise is probably Andrews. So, I mean, but that team does run the ball a lot with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. So I do understand his ADP, but for me, I think I would definitely be targeting Zay Flowers down in maybe the 6th round is probably about the good value that you could get for him. Same with Jerry Jeudy. Last year, he had a monster second half of the season when they were kind of going through some quarterback changes. Whenever he had Jameis Winston step in and just start throwing him long balls. So I think for Jerry Jeudy, though, I do want to put a disclaimer. I definitely think that his value definitely comes from having Joe Flacco or someone at quarterback. It's not necessarily someone that he can have anybody at quarterback. He kind of needs a certain experienced quarterback to be the one to throw the ball to him. But Jerry Jeudy going right now at 75 overall, that's a little low for him, especially with as explosive as he can be. And then the last 3 names I want to mention, they're all rookies, but these are all guys that I think are slowly creeping up draft boards everywhere. But we have Emeka Egbuka, rookie wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's kind of already slotted as, he was a huge college name and coming into this Buccaneers offense, and what we were talking about yesterday is just like how unhealthy these wide receivers kind of are as of right now. Mike Evans is getting older. Chris Godwin's still on the PUP list. And then Jalen McMillan suffering an injury. So Mbuka can obviously, he can be slotted in right off the bat of the start of the season. So for someone who's going at the 102 overall, that's someone that you can really, really wait on, unless we're talking about a dynasty league, then obviously you would probably take him earlier than that. But I also want to talk about Higgins for the Houston Texans. He's another giant target, kind of very similar physique-wise to Nico Collins. So I think this team having 2 wide receivers that are built both like Nico Collins is amazing. If we look at their wide receivers too, they've had a few guys get traded like Mechie and Stephon Diggs, and then Tank Dell obviously still with his injury. So I think there's definitely room in this wide receiver room for Higgins to step in almost immediately and be there for CJ Stroud. And the last guy going at 170, super late in the draft, literally for your last pick in the draft. We have Kyle Williams, wide receiver stud, rookie from I forgot what college he went to, but rookie wide receiver from the Patriots. He is insanely fast, explosive, looks great in that slot position. So giving him a quarterback like Drake May, who has a lot of wide receivers options now, such as Stephon Diggs and Kyle Williams, guys like that, I think he's a really good sleeper pick that you really don't have to waste any draft capital on. Just kind of there at the bottom of the draft when everyone's kind of checked out, you're still paying attention. But those are my guys that I have. Christian, who do you have?
And Washington State was the college you were looking for.
Thank
Just
you. I
like
appreciate it.
I got your assist, got your rebound.
You got
there,
my
right?
rebound, yes.
But so I'll start my list off with Deebo Samuel. Average ADP is 84 overall, wide receiver number 34, right? So when we're looking for value, yes, Deebo Samuel is older. He's 29. Yes, he is consistently had been at least missing a couple of games in the past couple of years. But when you look at the type of offense and usage he was in with the San Francisco 49ers, I think that Kyle Shanahan's offense and Cliff Kingsbury offense is going to be slightly different from each other, right? I think they're going to use Deebo in you'll see glimpses to where it looks similar. Like he's definitely going to take a handoff here and there, but he's not going to be maybe the ground and pound guy because Washington has kind of a crowded RB room, so much so that they're maybe looking about trading one of them, right? Or at least that's a rumor. So I think you start to see maybe the pressure off of Deebo Samuel, especially because they do have weapons outside of him. And I think that could allow Deebo to be what we want Deebo to be, which is a consistent red zone threat. And getting him this late in the draft could be fantastic, a fantastic steal to have as a potentially somebody who could turn into a wide receiver 3 or even a consistent starting flex option. And again, if the touchdowns jump from there because Jaden Daniels is going to have to give the ball to somebody in the red zone, it might even play a bigger opportunity for you down the road without having to spend too much draft capital on him. Deebo Samuel, again, was my first option at the wide receiver. And the second option, Clay and I had been sending some memes back and forth to each other recently, and I sent a SpongeBob one not that long ago where it's the mom and this little kid, and he's like, "Hey, look at that crusty old man over there," and it's Mr. Krabs like squinted face, just kind of looking at the camera, right? That the crusty old man in this example is going to be Cooper Kupp for me, right? The Cooper Kupp slander, I get it. He's definitely taken a step back. He's been injured. He's going to be maybe a little bit slower out of his breaks. But if you're talking about who he's going to be playing with, Sam Darnold needing a safety blanket, we kind of saw something similar with Adam Thielen when Bryce Young was over with the Panthers and Adam Thielen was like knocking people's socks off 2 years ago, right? Being the dependable blanket for a young quarterback. Now, Sam Darnold, not necessarily a young quarterback in the NFL's way of looking at things, but definitely a quarterback that has his moments to where he starts to see ghosts, right? So if in the world where Sam Darnold starts to see ghost again, look for him to look for something consistent. And who has been more consistent throughout his career of Cooper Kupp and somebody who was going in round 1 last year, you can now get an ADP of 87, right? Sure, maybe he's not going to get the same target funnel that Stafford was giving him, but putting Cooper Kupp at 87, 2 years removed from like a pretty decent season, right, is
Right.
kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
So got some value there. The last wide receiver that I'll talk about that could probably give you some value as a sleeper, and this is based off the most recent news with the quarterback battle between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, is going to be Michael Pittman. This is a tough one because you're talking about a crowded wide receiver room. You're talking about a young tight end who we potentially might talk about later, right? No spoilers intended, even though we're throwing it out there, right? But if we're looking at the wide receiver room, yeah, there's plenty of options, right? But let's look at Michael Pittman as his productivity in 2023, because last year he was dealing with a little bit of injuries and Anthony Richardson couldn't seem to hit an open target, right? I think some of the worst completion numbers we've seen in NFL history. So if we look at 2023, 16 games, 109 receptions on 156 targets, 1,100 passing receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. I think the problem here is, yes, Daniel Jones turns into a rock when he looks towards the end zone. He's just not, he has trouble finding the end zone for passing touchdowns. But why I really like Pittman this late, you're paying nothing for him. So again, ADP 115. He is the wide receiver currently off the board. Let's see here, 50 off the board, right? So you can get him really late. He truly is, in my opinion, the number one wide receiver option, not non-tight end, number one wide receiver option for the Colts. I know people are like Josh Downs, but Pittman, I think, has proven that when everybody's healthy and he's got a quarterback that can hit him, they're going to go to Michael Pittman pretty consistently. And not to mention, he has the 6th easiest wide receiver schedule so far coming up this year. So deep value, yes, you're taking some risk, but why not roll the dice, especially when you're later in the rounds here?
Nice picks, dude. I do have a couple of questions and comments. Just because I did take a quick look at your wide receivers, I did see that they were right next to each other in redraft leagues of Cooper Cup and Debo Samuel. So if you're faced with both of those guys, which one are you kind of leaning more towards a little to, because they are falling kind of super close to each other?
Yeah, great question. I'm probably going to go with Debo Samuels, and for me, it's a little bit quick to conclusion there, just because I do believe, even though I do think that Jaden Daniels will take a small step back from his rookie season, which was electric. I still think he's going to be an electric player, but I overall, even though I do believe he's going to take a small step back, I think that the Commanders are going to be a more explosive offense than the Seahawks will be, right?
Absolutely.
Could be wrong in that. I do believe Cup has more juice compared to Debo. So if you're talking about who has some left in the tank, I think Cup's got it. But I just think the more explosive offense, you got to go with them. So
Absolutely.
I would go Debo.
Yeah, I think I honestly, I agree with that pick, because like what you're faced with the two choices, you're faced with a guy who's on a more explosive offense with a younger white quarterback talent versus a guy who, does he still have the juice left in the tank? This is a guy 3 years removed from wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy. So I get the pick. It's hard to pick between those two guys, but I do respect going with Debo Samuel there. And then the other question I just wanted to bring up was, another two of our guys were right next to each other. I had picked Higgins from the Texans, and you had Michael Pittman, who was the wide receiver right below him, ADP wise. Of these two guys, I guess I technically, based on my picks, would differ from you, just based on the fact that this late in the draft, guys, around like, round 12 and later on, we're kind of taking shots in the dark here, because we, like Christian says, we do know what Michael Pittman can do, but wouldn't it be more fun and maybe higher risk, high reward for a young guy coming into the league who does have a solid wide receiver 2 potential with a quarterback like CJ Stroud? The quarterback situation in Indianapolis is not the best. Picking between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. But that's kind of just my 2 cents on it. But those guys do fall right next to each other ADP wise. But I just wonder if you had any insight on picking between those two guys, or if you would stick with your pick of Michael Pittman for our sleepers.
Yeah, if it was between the two, I would definitely go Jaden Higgins, just because I think, like you said, he could be the more electric player. We don't know what he is just yet. Pittman has had some injury history in the past, so there's still some question marks for a veteran like Pittman for sure, compared to their 0 question marks for Higgins, because we just don't know what we don't know yet.
Right.
And then the other thing that I think he kind of touched on as well is the quarterback situation. As tough of a year that Stroud had last year, he is the better quarterback between whoever starting at the Colts currently, right? In this case,
Right.
Daniel Jones. So, yeah, I would say that if I was picking between the two, I would go with Higgins. But if Higgins is gone and Pittman falls in your lap, don't be afraid because the situation looks yucky. When's the last time that Daniel Jones has had a good offensive line? So
I
you
don't think
probably
ever.
never, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not saying that was his only problem, but you throw in good offensive line, super friendly environment when they're playing at home, right? Because that stadium has been trained for years since Peyton Manning's been there for quarterback. He's going to have good running backs at his helm. a sensational rookie tight end that's going to be there. So I think J- Daniel Jones might surprise people about just going from atrocious to backup worthy, right? And if he's
Right.
backup worthy with some weapons, then I think there could be some fantasy value there. But again, to go back to the initial part of the question, between the two, definitely picking Jaden Higgins. But if Jaden Higgins is off the board and Pittman's right there, take Pittman. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, no, I definitely like the insight on that, because it is kind of clear up kind of what I just want to make sure our audience is aware of. But no, I never thought I'd be thankful that Daniel Jones is the starter in Indianapolis. I mean, it just kind of goes to show how scared I am of Anthony Richardson at the helm. But the good and bad news, I guess, is he will be back eventually and will probably take over Daniel Jones. But at least for now, we know what Daniel Jones can do, and yeah, we can at least look a little more upside for Pittman this year. But let's go ahead and move to our running back sleepers. I'll go ahead and start with who I have for sleepers here on our running backs. I want to start with a rookie that I'm very, very excited about. I think he's looked amazing in preseason, was a great player in college. But Travion Henderson right now is going at 61 overall ADP wise in redraft leagues. And guys, Travion Henderson for this Patriots offense is a godsend. He is a solid running back, comes into the league with so much skill, so much speed. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with preseason, but he did have I think it was a 102-yard kickoff return in game one of his first preseason game ever. And that's just kind of just to show you how much juice this guy has, right? He's going to hit a hole and hit it hard and bust right through the other side. So I think he's going to be a huge piece in this offense, especially, with Drake May, who I do have high hopes for. And a little spoiler, that is also one of my quarterback sleepers. But this whole Patriots offense, guys, we don't really know what to expect from them with these new weapons and these new draft picks, and it's all going to come together this year. But I do believe in Drake May, and I think Travion Henderson is going to be a great running back for him, especially at that ADP. And then these next few guys, they are all current backups or sharing splits with the starters, but each one of these guys that I'm going to talk about all have the potential to take over the running back spot if an injury should occur, or just, how this season goes. These guys all have juice and they're all salivating at the mouth to take over that running back spot. But I'm going to jump right into Zach Charbonnet, running back for the Seahawks, going at overall 113. And I just think Zach Charbonnet, he's definitely looked great when he's taken over for Kenneth Walker, right? And Kenneth Walker has sustained some injuries. And so when Charbonnet is in, Charbonnet is great. He's only had a few bad performances, but this is a guy who, he has uncertainty in front of him in Kenneth Walker, right? So when his name gets called, he's ready. And I truly believe that this could be the year that Zach Charbonnet sees majority of the work, even with a healthy Kenneth Walker. And then I want to jump into Trey Benson, running back, second year out of Florida State. Another guy I'm super excited to see. He's also running behind another semi-injury prone running back who managed to stay healthy all of last season, but has not had that same luck through his career of James Conner. Benson right now is going at the 162 overall. So if you're in a 10, 12-man league, this is a guy who's falling to like the 14th to 16th round. So again, you're not spending any draft capital on this guy, any like of importance. And you could be getting a potential running back one for this team, a guy who has had just 1 year back outside of college, so he's still young, hasn't seen the field a whole lot, but he's definitely ready for his opportunity. And then another big name, and I want to maybe even put a little warning on this guy too, because I think this is a guy who potentially could be a league winner. But I want to talk about Braylon Allen. This is a huge running back, of just so much potential, right, behind another semi-injured Breece Hall. And this is a guy that I can definitely see taking over Breece Hall's role as he continues to unfortunately regress, right? No one wants to see Breece Hall do bad. I loved Breece Hall coming into the league, but he's just had a series of unfortunate injuries. But Braylon Allen, again, right behind him, looking fantastic, looking great in these preseason games so far this season. And he is going at overall 178. So again, can literally take him with the last pick in your draft, guys. And this is someone who could be, running back starter for the Jets in this young Jets offense with Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, that does have potential to score a lot of points as well. And then how can I not mention this preseason sensation going on right now in Ja'Cory Croskett-Merritt? I think he's worth noting because of what he has done in the preseason, as well as a team that is currently shopping around their starting running back, Brian Robinson. So it's just interesting, guys. I'm not saying go out and take him any earlier than probably the second or last pick in your draft. But it is a name to kind of write down and keep an eye on where he is. I promise you, if you're in like a family league or a league of just, kind of casual guys, or maybe even a league that's just starting, no one's going to know who this guy is. And it could definitely be someone who is making some noise later on in the season. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens with Brian Robinson. But right now, guys, he's running with a lot of juice. He looks great. He's scoring touchdowns in preseason, and just watching him kind of gets me excited for football as well. So those are my running backs, Christian. I don't know if you have anything to say about them, or if you just want to kind of jump into yours. It's up to you.
Yeah, I really like the Henderson pick. I would just the only comment I have on that is just he's no longer a secret after preseason so
Right.
far,
Yeah,
right? So
for sure.
you're gonna see him climb the ladders. He's gonna get more expensive, but don't be afraid in buy investing in him just because it's like, okay, well, we've seen the talent. I guess the only question that I would have for you is kind of a theme with maybe some of the sleeper running backs, and I'll pick on one just for example. Um, so a lot of them are like I wouldn't call them handcuffs, but they could be some of them could be viewed as handcuffs for injury, right? Which you
For
mentioned a
sure.
couple of them. But on one of them that I'm looking at specifically, so you see Kenneth Walker sometimes being the 15th running back off the board, and then you see Zach Charbonnet, the 34th running back off the board. With that scenario specifically, and maybe not some of the other ones, if someone's going to go Zach Charbonnet, who I love too, and reports in camp have been even beyond the injury of Walker's, people have been saying that Charbonnet even fits better in the current offense, right? So, I
Right.
mean, are you just completely skipping over Walker as a pick and then just going and saying, I'm drafting Charbonnet solo, or are you picking both? How would you treat that if you're going to be looking at Charbonnet?
No, that's a great question. I'm kind of glad you asked. Guys, I am currently not a Kenneth Walker believer, right? So I'm going into these drafts, and really my eyes are kind of just scanning right over where he's even at. Not to say anything disrespectful about Kenneth Walker. I think just for me, it's more his injuries, right? His injuries for me, and having such a solid running back behind him just make me very nervous to take him, especially at that ADP when he's going around other guys. Let me pull it up real quick. There's Omarion Hampton going, the running back before him. David Montgomery is also around that same range. So, I mean, looking at other names just right now, I can already find other guys that I do like more than Kenneth Walker. So, to answer Christian's question, I would absolutely be going into the drafts kind of just targeting Zach Charbonnet rather than even looking kind of where Kenneth Walker is even going. So, absolutely, yes.
Cool. But that's what I got for you. I'll kind of hop in here in a second as well. I only got two running backs here.
Sure, yeah.
Um, So the first one I've got is Austin Eckler, who's currently at ADP 131, right? Now for these sleepers, again, mine specifically, I'm more value based when I look at my sleepers. Sometimes, like when it's late for quarterbacks and I'm drafting a rookie, yeah, I can look for explosiveness. But when we start getting to the late rounds, it's going to be hard to find those rookies because people have already taken them, right? When we start
Hmm.
getting to the bottom, right before we're picking defenses and kickers, right?
Right.
Um, Austin Eckler, you can get there. You're looking at, close to, let's see, ADP 131, 45th running back off the board. And even though I think that you're going to have somebody that Clay just mentioned in a running back there that has the opportunity to take the seams over Brian Robinson, what Austin Eckler, I think, is going to provide no matter who the consistent running back is to do the true ground and pound, Austin Eckler is going to be there for pass catching, right? And if we know anything about the 40 or about the Washington Commanders from last season, they're trying to be a high flying offense. If we know anything about Cliff Kingsbury, he likes to get the ball to the running backs, right?
Right.
So I think Austin Eckler's still going to have a position here to catch a couple balls a game, maybe 3 to 5 balls a game, possibly get some end zone work too, because he has a knack for finding the end zone throughout his career. So I just think he's a sneaky pick to gain some value, and you're going to have consistency, at least in the passing downs there, especially if you have an injury at running back or you need somebody to come fill in a bye week. I think Austin Eckler is going to be a pretty low floor, is why I would kind of look for him here as a sleeper. The next sleeper I have is Javonte Williams, right, for the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't necessarily think he's going to be efficient. I actually think that efficiency is not going to be, like I said a second ago, his strong suit. ADP 95 for Javonte. In terms of running back off the board, he's running back 37 off the board right now. But if there's one thing we can count on is, like we said before, the Cowboys defense being bad, the Cowboys moving the ball a lot on offense, at least through the air, because they're going to have to. They're going to be trailing a lot in games. You would expect Javonte to get some red zone work and fall into the end zone a couple of times, right? So I like him for his touchdown upside, especially for where he's going in the draft. I think you could, again, have the potential floor of, is he scoring a touchdown, every other game or so, at least, right? Just because they're gonna be moving the ball. And then I wouldn't also underrate his pass catching ability right now, because I think the Cowboys running back room is kind of banged up currently, right?
Right.
So, if Blue was going to be the pass catcher out there, it's not going to be happening, at least right away, because he's going to be recovering from injury. At least that's what it looks like. He probably won't play week 1. So Javonte's going to have some catch passing opportunities. That gets me real excited. And again, watching him fall into the end zone is probably going to be a theme for this coming year. I don't remember his name. Golly, maybe you could help me out with it. But just 2 or 3 years back, there was, oh my gosh, something Williams, and he was the secondary running back behind Alvin Kamara, maybe 2-3 seasons
Oh,
ago.
yeah. Uh,
I'm gonna
it's
butcher it, but you know who I'm talking about,
yeah.
right? He was, and I think the most frustrating thing as a Kamara owner during that time period was Kamara did all the dirty work, and then once they got inside the 5, they would give it to their tank, right? And
Hmm.
Javonte, I don't think loses the volume. I think he's going to get the bulk of the volume anyway, including the tank work. So I think they're just going to give it to him in the red zone, and he's going to fall into the end zone a handful of times this season. And
Jamal
that's
Jamal
Jamal
Williams.
Williams. Thank you. He's going to be your Jamal Williams of the Saints now, and probably on steroids here, just because the Cowboys are going to be moving the ball, in my opinion, a whole lot better than Jamal Williams, or excuse me, than the Saints did during that year.
Yeah, no, those are two solid picks. Definitely guys that you guys should be targeting for sure, just for their sheer value. I mean, like Christian said, just a couple, was it 2 years ago? Austin Eckler was finishing as the one, I think the one in the 4 RBs or something like that, overall in fantasy. So he's still a guy who still has juice, and like Christian says, he has great pass catching ability. So he can definitely get you what you need for the kind of draft pick that you'll be investing on him, which is not much at all. And then Javonte Williams is a guy who's also just had a super unfortunate start to his career, tore his ACL his rookie season, and just kind of hasn't gotten back on the horse the way he was meant to. So I think having a fresh start here on the Dallas Cowboys that has a running back room that is completely wide open since the departure of Rico Dowdle, and even if Dowdle was still there, I mean, this is a wide receiver or a running back room that you know we haven't really had anything in there since probably Ezekiel Elliott. But anyway, that's what I have to say about you guys. But I'll let you go ahead and finish off your thought.
Yeah, just real quick, just to correct it, because I know people are going to be out there and be like, "Hey, it wasn't the Saints that he did this with; it was so and so," right? If I looked at Jamal Williams, and I could have sworn it was with the Saints, but it wasn't during that year. It was with the Lions, so it was prior to the Saints. He was stealing touchdown equity with the Lions. He had 17 rushing touchdowns in 2022. So, and again, just falling into the end zone for a
Did
team
he
that was
actually?
pretty. He actually did. Yeah,
That's
it's
insane.
crazy. That is insane. So I just remember, and again, Alvin Kamara scenario. I apologize. Throw it out the window.
I mean,
But
he did play there. You're not wrong.
yeah, but he did. But again, the touchdown equity for a team that's going to be moving the ball, even though they're not great, like the Lions were not great in 2022, there was fantasy production there. So I just don't be surprised if Javonte Williams surprises people with touchdown equity this year, just because again the Cowboys are going to be moving the ball.
Right.
But that's the conclusion of my running backs. That's all I got.
Nice, dude. No, I like those two picks. Definitely staying with like, guys that are around that, I forgot what ADP you said, but definitely great value there. But let's go ahead and move into our tight end picks. I'm gonna just preface mine with just a little bit. I do have a little bit to say about mine because I'm very, very excited about this young tight end who he's just he's just yummy to me. I honestly almost had him as one of my Himothy's for our last episode, but I'm excited about him, but I don't think he's there just yet. It would kind of be wrong of me to make him a Himothy just because we haven't seen him in the league quite yet. But can he be a future Himothy? Absolutely. Guys, I'm talking about Tyler Warren. Right now, ADP is 89th overall, so definitely you can get him very late in your redraft leagues. Is a young rookie tight end coming out of Penn State. He's actually going at the end of the top 10 for the tight end. So there's about 10 tight ends in front of him. So definitely a lot of room to work with. You can keep letting him fall and fall and fall. Your other league mates may be kind of scrambling to find a tight end, but you'll be safe knowing, hey, I can grab this guy towards the end of my draft and be completely fine. But anyway, I want to just go ahead and talk about him just a little bit. He is a very versatile tight end. He played a lot of different roles at Penn State. They had him as a blocker. They had him as a pass catcher. They even put him at running back for a little bit. He was kind of like their trick. You could call him a Taysom Hill. Actually, he was able to do a little bit of everything, which is kind of the talent you want for a tight end position. Guys that are just super athletic. He's super versatile. Comes into the league at 6'6", 256. So weighs a little less than other tight ends, but is a little bit taller than them. So I think those are great height and weights for a tight end in this league. Definitely not coming in undersized at all. And with a guy like him that has great hands, in college he had 104 receptions for 1,233 yards and 8 touchdowns, and he also carried the ball 36 times for 218 yards and 4 touchdowns. So this was a guy who was kind of just doing it all for Penn State, and that's exciting to me. And I think that's why I am so high on Tyler Warren, because he's not, your typical tight end who's going to catch you, a couple receptions a game, 3 receptions for 30 yards, like some of these other guys who are going in the top 10 for tight ends. But this is a guy who could actually, take over games. And like we were kind of mentioning earlier, he is going to this Indianapolis offense that, he could very well be the wide receiver one for. His only competition, guys like Josh Downs and Michael Pittman. I think Tyler Warren brings a little extra oomph in his workload. So I will say that things that have gotten me excited about Tyler Warren is the way that this team talks about him. They've come out and said that they're going to give this guy the ball early and often, which is exactly what you want to hear for a young tight end. They're going to get him involved, guys. I mean, they're not going to waste any time with him. They're going to put him on the field and he's going to get the ball immediately. So that's what makes me super excited about him. The things that don't make me excited about him are actually nothing to do with him at all. It actually has to do more with his quarterback situation. Daniel Jones at the helm, I am fine with. I actually have no problem with him and Daniel Jones. My worry is what happens when Anthony Richardson comes back. Because for me, guys, Anthony Richardson, I have not seen a whole lot of things that I like about him. I don't necessarily like his work ethic. I don't necessarily like, that he looks for the deep ball. Not to say that Tyler Warren couldn't be the guy that gets a deep ball here and there, but it's just not necessarily his forte. It wouldn't necessarily fit his game style for me. But again, Anthony Richardson, he's just a bit of a wild card. I'm not too sure what to expect from it, but I think at least hopefully the talent that Tyler Warren brings, I hope that they would make Anthony Richardson work around him and involve him as much as they can too. But we'll just have to see. At least for now, in the beginning of the season, we do know that it is Daniel Jones, so we can at least draft him with the confidence that we will have Daniel Jones for hopefully a few weeks. But that is my one and only sleeper for a tight end, because I think beyond him, I think you could probably get a couple other guys, but I think for his value of going where he's going, I think he's the perfect sleeper pick for a tight end. And like Christian was saying earlier, I don't know if he would technically qualify as a sleeper anymore with as much as people are talking about him, but hopefully you guys are able to get him later on in your draft.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I do have, I guess, a thought or a question around Warren specifically for non-dynasty leagues. I know we're both excited because we're going to do a dynasty league for the first time with our buddies this year, right?
Right.
Or at least a really good one. And kind of like what we talked in the last show, look out for that recording maybe sometime next week, right? For
Right.
the live dynasty draft. But let's just say regular redraft here. You get Warren and he's explosive in week 1 and week 2, let's just say, or one of the weeks. And you have people giving you he becomes really good trade bait. And you know you can't keep him next year. Do you
Right.
consider trading him with the fear that something happens to Daniel Jones, he gets injured, or maybe the Colts just eventually decide to switch? How would you treat Warren if he has really good production early on, and you could get somebody who's tight end hungry to give you, I don't know, come up with some sort of wide receiver or running back name, but essentially to give you value in some of those positions? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I you bring up a good point, guys. But just so I get it right, this was a redraft question or a dynasty question?
Redraft question. Mhm. Yeah.
Redraft question. Yeah, I don't know. In a redraft league, I would definitely, obviously, kind of like Christian said, let's say Tyler Warren's popping off. I would definitely look for something that's more sustainable. Not necessarily trying to go for someone else, another team's home run, but maybe 3 weeks into this league, 3 or 4 weeks in, Tyler Warren's looking amazing, and let's say one of these top guys that people invested a top 3 draft pick for are looking sluggish. They're looking rough. I would definitely kick the tires on a few top picks. But ultimately, would I trade Tyler Warren? It would have to be the right deal, but I think I'm just too excited about him to let him go. I do understand the risk of what happens when Anthony Richardson comes back, but I think Tyler Warren, even if I can't keep him, I think he just is still tremendous value. He kind of reminds me of like what Sam Laporta did coming into the league his first year. Comes off, looks amazing, everyone wants him, and then he hasn't looked too great since then. But I think this is a guy who could definitely come out and do the same thing. Brock Bowers, for example, comes into the league, looks amazing. I just think the upside for where you're getting him is just kind of hard to beat. But no, I would definitely kick the tires on a few trades on some guys that are not looking so hot, but guys that I know will bounce back. But it would have, like I said, it would have to be a perfect deal. But I'm holding on to Tyler Warren.
Okay. Perfect. No, I like it. And did you have any other tight end plays, or are you good for me to jump in there?
I'm good. I'm ready for you to jump into yours. Yes,
All
sir.
right, cool. So I'll jump into mine here. The first one I got on the board is everybody's favorite tight end. It's Kyle Pitts, right? The guy that keeps breaking hearts for fantasy owners year over
But
year.
this is his year, guys.
This is his year. This is his year. The
Because
Kyle
why
Pitts
not?
is the newest member of the Cowboys organization because we're going to keep saying it's his year until it happens, right? Now let's look at you got to go back to the first season. They're going to look at two things here. I got another tight end, but I'll briefly go over that one just because I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. But in 2021, his rookie season, 17 games, 68 receptions, 1,000-yard tight end, only one touchdown. Literally in order, his touchdown progression has steadily increased. 1, 2, 3, 4 in his 4 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's what you want to see because the offensive coordinator is looking for him more consistently, right? They're playing him into the red zone. Now, in that, outside of the second season where he only had 356 receiving yards, he also missed roughly about 7 games. He's after outside of the 2022 season, 53 receptions in 2023, 47 receptions in 2024, and just over 600 receiving yards in each of those years. Again, not stellar, but also not a quarterback that's been known to make people better, right? Kirk Cousins, even though I like him a lot, especially when you watch him on the QB show on Netflix, he seems like kind of a goofy guy, and I love that, right? But Penix, we're all hoping is going to improve all the weapons around him, right? And yes, there's going to be time periods to where we're hoping that Drake London is just being fed nonstop. But eventually, when they're starting to double team Drake London, especially early on in the season, guess what? Darnell Mooney's hurt right now, I believe. So who are they going to be looking to? I think, especially early on, Kyle Pitts could surprise some people and allow you to potentially use him as trade bait for maybe higher tight end value, or who knows, maybe it lasts all season, right? But I like Kyle Pitts for how low he's going, ADP 135. If you're looking at the rankings for him as tight ends currently, he's the 16th tight end off the board. So you can get him really late. And again, from what I said earlier, he's 24 years old. If Kyle Pitts was 30 and he had been doing this for a very long time of like mediocre production, sure, like kind of give up on him maybe. But that he could still break out. He's practically the age of some tight ends that come out of the draft now, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, I really like Kyle Pitts as a late round draft pick. And then the other name that I'll mention who kind of fits the bill, ironically, is somebody that I was talking about, old veteran. What's he going to do? What is he not going to do? Or he feels like an old veteran. I guess he's really not. He's only 26 years old. It's Jake Ferguson. Dak Prescott's, has been known to like to pepper tight ends, especially in the red zone. The Cowboys, we are already kind of hoping as homers, but also as people who keep up with fantasy football, is really going to have a takeoff season just because hopefully he is truly healthy and he has two excellent wide receivers. Come come red zone time, Jake Ferguson's going to be there. He's going to be a red zone threat. You're getting him at ADP 125. You're ranking him at tight end position, let's see, 17. So you can get him after um, Kyle Pitts, and you could probably have some touchdown production. Again, last season, kind of a wash because he's playing injured almost all season. 2023, 71 receptions on 102 targets, 761 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's not bad at all for how late you can get Jake Ferguson. So those are my 2 tight ends.
No, dude, I love it. Those are great tight ends. Yeah, I definitely think I want to believe in Kyle Pitts as much as you. And would I be scared to take him? No. No, I would definitely take Kyle Pitts this year, even in a dynasty. I mean, I think he's just still too young. I mean, and why not now with Michael Penix at the helm? And this whole offense that he has. I mean, he's an ideal weapon, and I think they even said that they were going to try to start him in like the wide receiver slot a few times. So I mean, like he's going to figure it out, guys. He's just too athletic not to. And then, like Christian said, Tyler Ferguson, another great pick there. Cowboys love their tight ends, history wise, including Jason Witten, guys like that. So, and yeah, Dak Prescott, this offense is going to be chunking the ball. So it does not surprise me there that you could get insane value for him too. And then last but not least, let's go ahead and get into our quarterbacks. I again only have one, so I'll go ahead and mention mine. And I've already kind of talked about it earlier. But I'm going to talk about Drake May. I think Drake May, a lot of people are really low on him based on his performance last year. Had a lot of hype coming into the league, but unsuccessful. Injuries, interceptions, everything bad for this team was going bad. But I think what a lot of people aren't realizing is a lot of the additions that this team has made. They made improvements to their O line. I think they got a new right tackle, a new center, and they drafted a left tackle. Then they went out and traded for Stephon Diggs, or got him in free agency, I'm sorry. And then they went out and drafted Kyle Williams, Travion Henderson. I mean, this is a new loaded Patriots offense. And Drake May he's not no scrub. This is a guy who can scramble, use his feet, extend plays. He's still so young, guys. I think this is a guy that right now where he's going, I don't know if I mentioned already, but ADP 143. He's the 17th or 18th quarterback taken off the board. You have to spend zero capital on this guy. And I just think there's no reason for him to do as bad as he did last year based on all the changes that this team has made for him, essentially. They want to see him exceed. Obviously, his front office believes in him. I believe in him. I think this is a guy that's going to perform much better and maybe finish in the top 10 quarterbacks this year. I don't see why not. I mean, he just has all the weapons now. Sure, you could say Stephon Diggs is older and, maybe a little washed up, but I just don't see it like that. I think when you give a rookie quarterback a veteran wide receiver like that, it's more beneficial to him than, maybe obviously Stephon Diggs may regress, but he was injured last year too, guys. So he's already kind of regressing. But I think for Drake May's sake, it's going to be a great fit. But that's who I would pick for my only sleeper at a quarterback position.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I love the pick. In mock drafts, I flirt with him as well as the guy that I'm going to talk with next.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I like about Drake May more than my guy is, this is going to sound crazy, and I'm just talking fantasy production. Drake May has the opportunity to put up Josh Allen-like numbers, specifically in the rushing department, right? Because you talked about the scrambling. That scrambling was mainly not scripted last season.
Right.
Now you're talking about having Josh McDaniels be the offensive coordinator there, who will use players' talents. And one of Drake May's talents is he's mobile. So I wouldn't be surprised come red zone. There's designed runs for Drake May to go in for an extra for to have an extra blocker. And in 13 games last season, I think you might have mentioned this, but if you didn't, I'll just re-review it. 13 games, 421 rushing yards in 13 games, right? So a
Yes.
sneaky rushing production, and not to mention easiest rank of schedule for QBs. So just throwing that out there. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there for the quarterback pick. I like that one a whole lot.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. But yeah, let me go ahead and hear yours. I'm curious who you've been flirting with alongside my boy Drake May.
It's not even a flirt anymore. I full on one knee proposing to this guy at this point. We're gonna do it again. How about those Cowboys?
That's
Right.
right, baby.
This is the year where we yes win the Super Bowl. I know you guys are waiting for that, but then two, we see Dak Prescott compete for the MVP. The Cowboys are going to be moving the ball a lot, mainly because they have to. Dak Prescott is currently the 12th quarterback off the board in ADP 103, right? Yes, last season looked terrible because he missed practically half the season with a severe injury. Wasn't a minor injury, right? But if we look at the seasons that Dak Prescott has been majority healthy, let's go back to 2023. 2023, 4,516 passing yards, 36 touchdowns.
Jeez.
2022, he was injured a little bit. He missed some games, only played 12 games. So, I'm going to count that as a non-healthy season. 2021, 16 games, majority of the games, 4,449 passing yards, 37 touchdowns.
Right.
When Dak Prescott is healthy, again, one more season just to pepper it on there for the haters, which I am pretty consistently a hater of Dak Prescott.
He
You
is,
can
guys.
2019, 4,900 passing yards and 30 touchdowns. The guy puts up volume, and that's what we seek in fantasy football. So yes, there you can say, well, Christian, you skipped a couple years because of injury in between the healthy years. Absolutely, there's a risk for injury with Dak Prescott, but if he's healthy and they're able to have some version of a running game this season to put some pressure off of him, and the addition to Pickens, which should mean there's less double teams on either less double teams on Lamb or maybe just more double teams on Lambs and just a wide open Pickens because he is a gamer. I was talking with some people the other day who were like, "Oh, he's not a true one." Any other team Pickens is on, he is a true one. He's just behind one of the greatest wide receivers in the league currently, right? So it's just kind of like, of course, he's not going to be the true one in Dallas, but I don't know. I think this team is going to be a beautiful passing team this coming season. I know they talk a lot about the run game, but you're going to see Dak Prescott, if he's healthy, have a lot of success.
No, I couldn't have said it any better. I think Dak Prescott. I mean, how long has it been without Amari Cooper? Right, that was 2019. Because I was looking at the stats right now. Dak Prescott, if it was 2019, I'm pretty sure was the last year. Because we've seen this before, guys. Dak Prescott, when you give him two wide receiver one A and one B, he gets it done. Back in 2019, he finished as the second overall quarterback in
Mm-hmm.
fantasies, and I'm pretty sure that was the last year with Amari Cooper. So he's just primed for it again. I absolutely believe in Dak Prescott more than just a normal Cowboy fan does. Um,
We did
do I
have him in
agree?
2019.
Right?
Wasn't his last season, but we had him in 2019. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying is like we've seen this before. That you give Dak Prescott these weapons, he's gonna get it done. Sure, the running game is probably nowhere near as prime Zeke was in 2019. But this offense with these weapons, they're gonna make some noise. Dak Prescott is consistent sounding from Christian stats when he is healthy. He's consistently getting in 4,000, almost 5,000 passing yards a season. I mean, that's insane for a guy who's going as the 12th overall quarterback and now this high powered gear, offense that has to perform in order to keep up with, the defense that's going to be lacking. But no, I love the Dak Prescott pick there. I do have a question though. Since we are starting a brand new dynasty, um, would you, I know Dak Prescott's a little bit older, would you be targeting him in a dynasty for like a 1 year flyer just based on what you're about to see in this offense?
Yeah, I'm taking Dak Prescott, and I wouldn't even be concerned that it's only just a 1-year flyer. Dak Prescott's 32. So unless, knock on wood, he comes across a traumatic injury in these coming seasons, which absolutely not hoping for, he's got, if he wants it, just what we've seen with Rodgers, what we've seen with Brady, and I'm not saying they're the same player before everybody starts freaking out, but you've seen people can play quarterback later in age. Joe Flacco, starting position at the age of 40. He's got another 8 years if he wants it,
For
right?
sure.
So I wouldn't be afraid of taking him at all in fan or in Dynasty, and you might even be able to get him later, right? I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure
Oh
you
yeah.
would.
Think you could get
So,
him. I think you could get him even way later in Dynasty. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I misspoke when I said 1 year flyer. I kind of meant just like 1 year until like the next year when you can draft another like rookie quarterback.
Oh,
That's all I
yeah.
kind of meant. But
No.
no, yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you answered it the way that you did because that's kind of more. You answered it better than what I thought. So, um, but yes, guys, those are our sleeper picks for this year. And I think we've touched on every position because we're not going to get into kickers and defenses and things like that. But Christian, I'll let you have the floor for any final thoughts and anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, just one last thing before we close out here on the Dak Prescott dynasty thing,
Oh,
because I
sorry.
think it's a no, it's all right. I think it's a great question. Um, Draft him, absolutely, and then say thank you, right? But to everybody else who didn't draft him. But
That's
then
right.
also, it's a quick dynasty suggestion. If you're getting the value of Dak Prescott deep into rounds in a dynasty draft, that probably means you're loaded at wide receiver and running back. Guess what you need to be doing with your first round pick every year after that? You need to be trading back. And you need to be getting more capital so when Dak Prescott does retire, you can draft the next quarterback, right? You'll have plenty of capital. So, I mean, when it comes to dynasty, don't be afraid of it. Go get them and then just consistently trade your first round pick. That's what I'm going to do if I get him. Right. so yeah, just he's going to be elite. We're talking over 4,000 passing yards, 30 plus touchdowns. It's going to be a crazy season for Dak Prescott.
Yeah, no, I think that's tremendous. And then last guys I kind of want to touch on. I'd kind of mentioned to these guys earlier to Christian. I'm not going to go ADP wise because it's kind of not even worth it. These are just some rookies that we love. So whether you guys are playing in a dynasty or redraft, and maybe you're playing in a 16 team redraft, I actually am in one of those in a family league. So the wider the league is, the harder it is to find guys. So I just have a quick list of some rookies coming in that I think you should at least put a little star next to them, kind of just keep an eye on where they're landing. But quarterbacks, Will Howard, running backs, huge rookie running back class that's coming in, guys. So I think Dylan Sampson, running back out of Tennessee, is a huge name. Devin Neal going to I think the Saints this year, another huge running back out of Kansas. Our boy Taj Brooks, running behind Chase Brown, running behind Chase Brown and the Cincinnati Bengals, I think is also a huge stud. They got a great deal on him. And Ollie Gordon, another, believe he won the Herschel Walker Award or something in
Yeah,
college. This guy
great
was
name.
Heisman watch guy. Ollie Gordon played at Oklahoma State. He's running behind Jalen Wright and Devon Achane in the Miami offense, but he's
Not for
to
long.
me exactly to me he's built different. He's not small. He's not injury prone. Devon Achane already starting the year off with an injury, so this is a guy that you want to at least know where he's going in your draft. I promise you guys, he's not going to get injured as quickly as Devon Achane. This guy is built like a tank. But just wanted to touch on some rookies real quick before we head it out. But I know we have drafts coming up. We have our own drafts coming up. I got a draft on Friday night, so just kind of wanted to get these episodes out there to you guys to listen to before your drafts. But thank you guys for listening. Christian, I'll let you sign everyone out.
Yeah, thanks again for listening, everybody. And then just as a quick note, if you guys have made it through some of our episodes here, whatever platform we're on, and again, look for us on Spotify, look for us on X, look for us on TikTok, and then look for us on YouTube. If you've got a question coming into draft season, throw it in the comment section on any one of those platforms, right? And we'll do our best to kind of look out for it and answer that question. And maybe we can even message back and forth if you got further questions. Coming into draft season, we want to be as helpful as possible. Like we mentioned a while back, and we'll continue to mention, we're trying to build a community of fantasy lovers here, right? Fantasy people that are just in love with the game itself. So don't be afraid to throw in a question or even throw in a hateful comment if we really get one of these picks wrong.
Yeah. Love those guys. But no, yeah, we're always
willing to help each and every one of you. Unless you guys are in our own leagues, then we definitely, may not be as available. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, guys, thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening. It's been a pleasure, Christian, and everyone. You guys have a great night.
Later.